It started with a drawer. Not a dramatic beginning, I know, but that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always walk in with a crash and a scream. Sometimes it slips in quietly, while you're just looking for a spare charger. It was late afternoon. The house was unusually quiet. My wife, Melissa, was out running errands, or so she said. I wasn't suspicious. I didn't have reason to be, not really. Our marriage had its quirks like any other, but nothing I would have called unstable. We laughed, we argued about the dishes, we binge-watched the same shows on repeat. I thought we were solid. Boringly, comfortingly solid. I had been working in the garage and needed a different cable to connect my old external hard drive. Just one of those small things you put off until it suddenly becomes urgent. I remembered Melissa had a drawer in the study where she kept old phones and wires, tangled and forgotten. So I opened it. Inside, there were chargers from 3 generations of phones ago, random receipts, a cracked sunglasses case, and, tucked at the back under a small leather-bound notebook, her old iPhone. An iPhone 6, maybe 7. White, scratched at the edges. I picked it up and smiled. It felt like finding an artifact, like some little window into our earlier years. The screen lit up when I pressed the side button. Dead, of course. But then I noticed it was already connected to a power bank in the drawer. Curiosity, not suspicion, made me plug it in. It buzzed to life slowly, screen brightening. Familiar lock screen photo of her with her little niece at the beach. I remember taking that photo. Melissa had insisted she didn't like how she looked in it, but I kept it anyway. I loved her face in that moment. Sun-kissed, carefree, real. No passcode. That's what caught me. No passcode. Melissa was meticulous about her phone security. Her current one needed Face ID, 2-step auth, and sometimes an incantation, it felt like. But this was wide open. I didn't go looking for anything. Not at first. I told myself I'd just clear out old storage. Help her back up anything important. Be helpful. That was the lie I told myself, standing in the quiet of our shared study, while the autumn sun leaked through the blinds. The Messages app was still full. Hundreds of conversations, family, friends, old coworkers. I was about to close it, honestly, when a name caught my eye. Just a single letter. R. No last name. No emoji. Just that one letter. The most recent message read, "When are you telling him?" Sent on May 28th, 2016. I paused. May 28th. That date. It poked something in the back of my mind, familiar and unplaceable. Then it hit me. That was the day before our wedding. My stomach dropped. I opened the thread. At first, it was nothing. Messages about work, about stress, little jokes. But then it turned. The tone shifted. It wasn't playful or innocent. It was layered, emotional, intimate in a way that didn't belong in the orbit of someone about to marry someone else. I kept scrolling, and with every flick of my thumb, my chest tightened. There were references to late nights, to our spot, to how hard it was not seeing each other. Mentions of a trip to Montreal. Melissa had told me she'd gone with her cousin. Photos were mentioned. Not attached, thankfully, but the language said enough. Then came a message from her, dated May 27th. I can't keep lying to him. And R's reply, just after midnight, May 28th. When are you telling him? No response from her after that. Not then. That was the last message in the thread. No closure. No confession. No sign she ever ended it. My legs felt unsteady. I sat down in the desk chair, the phone cradled in my hands like something radioactive. I didn't cry. Not then. It was too sudden, too surreal. Like I'd stumbled into someone else's life. Like I'd opened a door in my own house and found an entirely different story playing out behind it. All I could think was she in love with him when she married me? Had I been a placeholder? A safety net? A consolation prize? I thought back to that weekend, our wedding weekend. The smiles, the way she held my hand under the table at the rehearsal dinner, the way she cried during her vows. I replayed those moments like a film on loop, now trying to detect any flicker of dishonesty. But I couldn't. That's what made it worse. She had seemed so present. And maybe she was. Maybe that's what people like me tell themselves to keep from falling apart. That there was at least some truth in the lie. The drawer was still open. The sun had dipped lower. Shadows stretched across the floor like long, accusing fingers. I heard the front door open. Keys jangled. Melissa was home. I didn't move. I heard her heels on the hardwood, the soft click of the door closing, the muted rustle of her tote bag being set down. She called out, casual and warm. "Babe? You home?" My heart pounded so loud I thought it might answer for me. I looked down at the phone still in my hand, the screen glowing dimly. The conversation with R, still open. That last message, when are you telling him? Like it had been written in permanent marker on my brain. I stood up slowly and placed the phone back in the drawer exactly how I found it, power cord and all. Closed it gently. I didn't know why I was being careful. Maybe because something had just broken and I didn't want the sound of it to echo yet. She was coming down the hall now. I stepped out into the living room before she could find me in that office. Before she could ask why I was in her drawer, why her old phone was lit up with 6-year-old ghosts. There you are, she said, smiling like nothing had changed. You want Thai or Mexican tonight? I'm craving something spicy. Her voice, her everyday voice, the one I'd heard while brushing our teeth or making Sunday pancakes, sounded suddenly foreign. A language I no longer spoke. I'm not hungry, I said. She tilted her head. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I nodded. Because I had. But the ghost didn't wear chains or hover in the corners of the room. She was standing right in front of me in her favorite trench coat, cheeks slightly flushed from the wind, eyes rimmed with the kind of concern that used to make me feel loved. Now it just made me feel sick. I was looking for a charger, I said. Found your old phone. That was it. I watched her face. A flicker, barely a second. Then it was gone, buried under a practiced smile. Oh God, that thing still works? I haven't touched it in years. Must have still been logged in, I said. Another flicker. This one slower. Did you read something? She asked. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The silence was loud enough. She exhaled. Okay, she said, drawing out the word like she was preparing for something heavy. Listen, that was a long time ago. A really confusing time. I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw her not as my wife, not as Melissa, the woman I built a life with, but as someone I didn't fully know. Someone who had carried a secret into our wedding day and buried it like a landmine beneath our vows. I want to know the truth, I said. My voice was even, but my hands had curled into fists at my sides. Not from anger, from trying not to fall apart. She looked down at her hands, clasped tightly. She nodded, but the words didn't come easily. His name was Ryan, she said finally. He was someone I met during my last year at the firm before I left to go freelance. It was intense. Stupid. It wasn't supposed to happen. And it ended. When? I asked. She hesitated. When? I repeated. The night before the wedding, she said, her voice barely audible. I felt something cold slide down my spine. So the message I saw, when are you telling him? You never answered. She shook her head slowly. I couldn't. I didn't want to lose you. I laughed. I didn't mean to. It came out small and sharp, like a cough that hurt too much to hold in. So instead, you married me. With him still in your head. It wasn't like that. You don't get to tell me what it was like for you. I snapped, the first crack in my voice since she walked in. You had a choice. You made it. She looked like she might cry. I waited for the tears to come. They didn't. She stepped closer. I've loved you. Every day since then. I made a mistake. No, I said. A mistake is forgetting to lock the front door. A mistake is burning dinner. This was a decision. We stood in silence for a long time. I thought about the night we got married. The way she laughed during the first dance because she messed up the steps. The way she fell asleep on my shoulder in the car ride to the hotel. I thought those memories belonged to us. Now, they belong to a triangle I never agreed to join. Did he know you were getting married? I asked quietly. She nodded. And he didn't try to stop you? She shrugged. I think he thought I'd come back to him eventually. That hurt more than anything else. I stepped back. She reached for me. Please don't let this ruin us. But the thing was, it already had. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to leave that second. The ruin had already begun. Quiet, slow, like water seeping through floorboards. I didn't say anything else. I just went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the floor. That night, she slept beside me. Or maybe she didn't. I didn't check. I didn't sleep either. I was trying to figure out which memories were real and which ones had been rewritten without my permission. Because if the day before our wedding was a lie, what else was? In the days that followed, we lived together like two actors stuck in the same scene, refusing to break character. The air between us felt heavy, like a room full of smoke after the fire's been put out, but the smell still clings to your clothes. She tried. I'll give her that. She made dinner most nights. Brought me coffee in the morning the way she used to, with a little swirl of oat milk and just the right amount of sugar. But it all felt like a reenactment. Familiar movements with none of the meaning behind them. A routine stripped of the trust that once made it real. And I went through the motions, but quietly, something inside me was pulling away. I didn't know what to do with the anger. It wasn't explosive. It was slow burning, like embers under skin. I'd lie awake wondering, was I her backup plan? Was I always plan B? One night, about a week after I found the phone, I couldn't take it anymore. She was asleep beside me, one hand resting lightly on my chest, like she still had some unspoken claim to my heartbeat. I got up, went back to the study. I know, I should have stopped digging. But the thing about betrayal is, once the door is open, you can't unsee what's behind it. You just want the whole truth, even if it shatters what's left. The phone was still in the drawer, still charged, still open. I scrolled back further in the conversation with Ryan, past the last message, past the Montreal trip, past the months leading up to the wedding. And I found them. Messages she hadn't deleted. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she didn't think I'd ever look. Or maybe she thought I wouldn't believe them even if I did. There were words I recognized. Phrases she'd used on me. Lines she'd whispered into my ear late at night. Especially in those early months of our relationship when we were still learning each other's edges. I've never felt like this before. You see me in a way no one else does. Being around you makes everything feel less heavy. But these weren't sent to me. They were hers, written to him. And he'd replied with versions of the same thing. You're my light. I wish you'd choose me. He doesn't love you like I do. I sat there for what must have been an hour, just reading and rereading, trying to understand who she was then, who I was in the narrative she wrote around me. Eventually, one message stopped me cold. It was from Melissa, dated March 5th, 2016, 3 months before our wedding. She'd written, he's safe. He'll give me the life I want. But you make me feel alive. It gutted me, not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. She hadn't lied to him. She'd lied to me. That's when I knew. No matter what came after, no matter how many good years we'd had, our marriage had been built on a kind of theft. She had stolen a choice from me. The choice to walk away before I invested my whole heart. The choice to marry someone who had already let someone else in through a door that should have been closed. The next morning, I packed a small bag, just enough for a few days. When she woke up and saw me at the foot of the bed, tying my shoes, she sat up fast. Where are you going? She asked. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I need space, I said. Real space. I can't breathe in this house right now. Tears welled up in her eyes. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. No, I said gently. We can't fix what you buried. And we definitely can't fix what you chose not to say. She reached for me. I stepped back. I deserve to know, I said. Before the wedding. That message, it was your moment. You didn't take it. She covered her mouth with her hand. Her shoulders shook, but I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. Not then. I left without slamming the door. I stayed at a friend's for a while. Took walks. Wrote in a notebook things I never thought I'd need to say out loud. Weeks passed. I didn't block her, but I didn't respond either. I needed the silence. Eventually, she sent a letter. Not a text. Not an email. A real letter, on stationery I recognized from our wedding invitations. In it, she wrote, if I could go back, I'd choose differently. Not because I don't love you, but because I should have loved you honestly from the start. You deserved a clean beginning. I gave you a compromised one. I will always be sorry for that. I didn't cry reading it. I just folded it, placed it in the same drawer where I'd found her phone, and closed it gently. We're not together anymore. There was no explosive end. No public fallout. Just a quiet understanding that something once whole had cracked too early, too deeply, to ever be the same. Some days I miss her. Other days, I miss the version of myself who still believed she was mine. But all days, I'm grateful for that charger. That drawer. That moment of accidental clarity. It was the start of my healing. And the end of her lie.